Hi folks, this is Glenn B. from ballseyesboomers.blogspot.com, and this is part 2 of an informational video series about my Marlin 336 rifle in .35 Remington and how I disassemble it and then reassemble it after cleaning. The disassembly, as you can see, has already been done. That was part 1 of the video series. This is part 2, and I'll show you how to reassemble it. Basically, in order to reassemble this rifle, you do so in reverse order of the way you disassembled it. And one of the first things I'm going to remind you about is not to operate the trigger. You see that the rifle is cocked, the hammer is back. The safety button is protruding on the right side of the frame and not on the left side of the frame. It's flush on the left side of the frame. Take my word for it. It's protruding on this side, and that means that the weapon is in safe condition. However, it is a hammer block safety, and if you squeeze the trigger now, the safety will not block the operation of the trigger. The hammer will fly forward, and when the bolt is out of the gun like this, that can cause damage to this weapon. You also don't want to take the safety off and put it in a fire position and then squeeze the trigger, because that will cause further damage to this weapon when it's in this condition. That's as per the manufacturer, and I'm going to take their word for it, because I imagine any repairs for that kind of damage would be rather expensive. And you may do what I just said. You may take the safety off, put it into the fire position, squeeze the trigger, allow the hammer to fly forward. You may cause damage and not realize that you have damaged the weapon. And I certainly wouldn't want to be using a damaged weapon later on that I did not know was damaged because of my stupidity in having done something I wasn't supposed to do and then cause an injury to somebody, especially to myself or one of my loved ones. So I will take the manufacturer's word for it and leave it in this condition. Do not operate the trigger when it's in this condition. The first thing you do to reassemble it is go over your parts. Make sure that you have all the parts. Make sure that you have the proper tools for reassembly, which in this case is a screwdriver. That's all you need. The parts that you're going to have are the main rifle itself, the bolt, the finger lever screw, and the ejector. The ejector was the last part to come out, and as I said, you reassemble in reverse order, so this is the first part to go back in. When this goes back in, you can see that there's a little nub at the bottom of the ejector, and that there's a basically a piece of spring metal right here, and this is the body of the ejector up on top. To put it back in, you want this little nub facing the inside wall of the left side of the receiver. So it goes in like this. So that nub is facing there. There's a small groove on that side of the receiver. If you look in there, you can see it, and you're going to just place it in there gingerly, and you want that to be in the groove, that nub to be in the groove. You want the spring metal to be in the groove, and I don't know if you could hear it, but when I pushed it back a second or two ago, there was a little clink because it fell right into place. If you don't get it in place properly, and if your pinky is small enough, you can put it into the breech end, and you can use it as a guide to get the extractor right in the position that it belongs to be in. Basically, it's sitting in there. If this was the interior wall of the left side of the receiver, it's sitting in there like this. This is the spring metal. The little nub would be back here, going into a depression in the wall of the receiver, and the main part of the ejector is sticking out like this. So it's in there now. It's secure. It's not moving back and forth. Of course, if I move the rifle or if I bang it hard, it's going to fall out. I don't want to do that. Next, I want to take the bolt. I'm going to give it a good look. Make sure that I cleaned it well. In this case, I haven't cleaned it, so if you think, oh wow, that still looks dirty, that's because it is. I'm only showing you a video on how to disassemble and reassemble, not on how to clean it. I'll clean it later myself. To put the bolt back in, you take it so that the ejector is facing up or is facing the inside wall of the right side of the receiver, like this. This is the ejector here. Excuse me, the extractor. You want the extractor facing up when the rifle is in this position, or you want it so that it's going to run along the inside face of the right side of the receiver, and you just put it in, and you can start to push it forward. Again, if you remember when I took it apart, I depressed the hammer a little bit like this, holding the hammer down. I can push the bolt in. It's a whole lot easier to push the bolt in. If you're feeling a lot of resistance while you're trying to get the bolt in, the reason you may be feeling a lot of resistance, and I'm going to take the bolt out to show you, is that the bolt may not be riding over the ejector in the proper way. The bolt is what holds the ejector in place when it's inside the rifle. You can see this side of the bolt, the right side, is fairly smooth. However, on the other side of the bolt, you can see there's a groove. That groove, the whole length of it, rides over the ejector at one point or another in the operation of the rifle, and it holds it in place. So I'm going to put it back in. Well, first I'm going to check my ejector. My ejector is still seated properly. I can feel it in there. I'm going to push this in. Again, holding the hammer down a little. I'm going to push it in just far enough so it's all the way forward of the hammer, not touching the hammer. And it leaves it open about what? Maybe a ½ inch to a 3/4 of an inch over here. I'm now going to take the finger lever, and I'm going to put the finger lever back into the rifle, remembering the angle that I took it out at before. It's about the same angle. You can see it starts going back in. I'm careful not to bang it into the trigger too hard. It may hit the trigger a little bit, but I don't want to bang into it hard and have the hammer go forward. It's now lined up so that I can get the finger lever screw back into place. There it goes. I start to thread it by hand. Make sure my screwdriver is set up. It's a ratcheting screwdriver. I want to make sure it's set up the right way to tighten, which it is. And I begin to tighten this, get it in there so it's firm. You don't have to give it a really hard twist like that. If it's good firm stop comes to it, fine, just leave it like that. You don't want to strip the screw head, and you don't want to break the screwdriver either. The next step is to close the action all the way, and this is leaving the hammer back. I'm going to leave my finger off of the trigger again, but I'm going to open it. I'm going to operate it a few times. You can see it's operating wonderfully. I stick my finger in here, and I can feel that the ejector is in place. It's not going to come out now because the bolt is over it. And the rifle is good to go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the safety off, because I store this rifle with the hammer down. You cannot have the safety in the on or safe position when the hammer is dropped all the way. I'm going to put my thumb on the hammer, I'm going to depress it, I'm going to hold it in place, and I'm going to gently squeeze the trigger. And once the trigger is depressed all the way, I'm going to start to ride the hammer forward with my thumb slowly, 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 and allow it to close. This is the way I store this rifle. And there's another way you can store it. You can store it in half cock. You see it cock the trigger, but you cannot operate the trigger with it in this position. Squeezing it, as you can see, it will not operate. You can now put the safety on also as a double precaution, or you can store it with the hammer back and with the safety in the on position. I don't recommend this. God forbid you leave a round in there and you pick this rifle up and somehow take the safety off and depress the trigger. You could kill somebody. So I much prefer storing it with the hammer fully forward like that. It's in my mind a much safer way to store the rifle. Folks, that's it for the reassembly video. The rifle is now in a fully functional state once again. And next time I may make yet a third video that shows you how to take down the rifle further, removing the magazine tube for cleaning and things like that, taking off the foregrip or the forestock, taking off the magazine tube for cleaning them. But for now, that's it. This is a basic field disassembly and reassembly video series 1 and 2, and that's all I have for now. Thanks, and have a good day.